I guess we'll just start out with let's start from the beginning. How much now that you're back in Bozeman, hanging out and stuff? We got the helmet there. What do you remember from your time playing for the Bozeman Hawks when you can kind of like reflect on what it was like playing high school football in Montana?
I mean, I loved it. I just remember really the bond that I made with a bunch of my teammates there in high school. It's special, just working out in the summer, being with the guys all year, going to school and being close with them. But Bozeman High, we didn't win a lot, which was tough, but I think it definitely helped me in my career going from there, just kind of how to deal with adversity, everything like that. But that's really what I remember, just having, it was just really fun being a really close-knit group in high school and just bonding with those guys and just being friends for life.
On the drive over, Ben was like, it must have been a pretty big steal for the Griz to come into Bozeman and get you. What was the recruiting process like, and was it always going to be Montana? What was that like?
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, it was a goal of mine to play college football, and growing up in Bozeman, for sure, I would go to Bobcat games and everything like that with my friends. But then I do just remember whenever the Griz would come and we'd see them, they just looked like a different program. Just the offensive linemen were huge, and then when the recruiting process started, I wanted to be fair and go to where I thought the best place for me was, and also a school that wanted me. And I remember that year, like Bobby Daly, Jace Mirai, all these guys had already committed to Montana State. So when Montana State was recruiting me, they only offered me a partial scholarship at first. And right away, Bobby Houck offered me a full ride, told me how much he wanted me to be a part of the program. I went up and visited Missoula and fell in love with the Griz Nation and just the stadium, the game day atmosphere, and what they built there. So that was important, and I thought for me that was my best opportunity to go and play big-time college football and also go to a place that wanted me, and that was Missoula.
What was it like being recruited by Bobby and playing for him for a year?
Yeah. I mean, it was great. I just remember when him and actually Coach Delaney, Nick Delaney, recruited me. He was the running back coach at the time. He was recruiting me. When they came into my living room with my mom and I, he just had that presence about him. He is a great recruiter, but I could really tell that he had a vision for me, and also just I could see the type of leader he was, and that was someone I wanted to play for. And so to see him now there is it's cool to see, because it brings back memories of when he first recruited me and that culture that he built there, that winning culture that you see. They had such a great record, and I wanted to be a part of it.
What do you remember from like just kind of the type of coach that he was?
I just remember him having really, he built a culture there, and he was such a leader that regardless of his coaching style, you respected him, because they won, and just, yeah, that culture he built was something that was special, and I think people saw that he was really behind that, and his mentality and his ideas, and also the type of people and players he recruited there. I think a lot of special big-time players have gone through there, and that's because of Bobby and him seeking them out, but also he understood that you can develop players through a program, and it takes a special type of individual to do that. And you see Mark Mariani, Colt Anderson, Chase Reynolds, the list goes on, and those are those types of people that Bobby can find.
I know you've been in tune with Griz athletics, and when they were going through the coaching search, like you would ask me like, hey, what are you hearing and stuff.
Yeah.
What was it like when you heard that Bobby might be coming back? Was it kind of exciting for you?
Yeah, I was really excited. Yeah, I think Montana, it's just, there's so much tradition there that you need someone at the helm there who understands that, and there's no one better than Bobby. I mean, he helped bring that place up to where it is, and for him to come back is fantastic, and I think he's going to do a great job.
You had, Bobby, Coach Delaney, Coach Pflugrad. What do you remember from your time at Montana in what was kind of an up and down time in Montana football?
Yeah, I mean, I remember my freshman year getting recruited. They just went to a national championship in 2008. Lost to Richmond. Then my true freshman year, I played that year, and we lost to Villanova in the national championship. Then Bobby leaves for UNLV. Pflugrad comes in, and we don't go to the playoffs, and I don't think we went to the playoffs, and didn't win a Big Sky. Then the next year we won a Big Sky, and then Coach Pflugrad gets fired, and then we have Mick Delaney come in. We have a hard year, and then my senior year we make the playoffs. And I think it was, looking back, it was difficult to go through all that as a college student and a student athlete, because when you get recruited, when you commit to a university, you're really giving your life to them for 4 years, and you're pouring all your passions, your work ethic, and so to have that change was hard, and I think it was hard for a lot of guys in that program. But to look back on it, I'm really just proud of the way that we rallied and we came together, and I think it made us a very close-knit group, and we overcame a lot of adversity that a lot of programs don't have to go through.
What was it like, in the moment, not reflecting on it now, but in the moment as a player on the team? Your coach, the athletic director are getting fired, and people are saying things about the program and stuff. What was that like, hearing those things in the moment as like a young man, a young student athlete?
I mean, it was life shaking. Like, it definitely shook the foundation of our life and my life at that time. That it was Missoula, it was UM, and so when something like that happens, it's such a big thing, you can't even understand it, because it just changes so many things about your life. And so, I mean, I remember being in class with Jordan Tripp, and we both get a text that it had happened, and we both were panicked. We both kind of like, what's next? Kind of, what are we going to do? Our athletic director and head coach are gone, and I remember just actually Ty Gregorak was a big part of kind of helping us come together and figure out like what the next step is going to be. And we all just really bonded and came together, and we all came up with the idea of really writing a press release from the players' perspective, because we remember that at that time, just the Missoulian and all these different media outlets were just kind of running with the story, and they didn't hear from the players. We kind of wanted to take that initiative and take that stance of, hey, like, this is what we have to say and this is how we're handling it, and I think that was really cool looking back, is that was really the first time, at least I remember, when something like that happened, the players speaking up and really coming to the forefront of the issue. And so I was really proud of that, for us to do that.
How, what was it like? Did it feel unfair going through it at the time? Like going through that situation and what was being said? And has that changed? Is your perception on that changed now that you've...
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I think when I was in the moment, I did think that. I think it was unfair. I didn't understand why, because it's hard for me, especially at that time, to think that it's hard, like, do these presidents and these people are making these big decisions, when they make something like that, do they also understand how it affects the student athlete? Is that always into account, or is it more of kind of their decision and what they want to do and what's best for the university? But they also have to consider the student athlete. So at first it was some anger, and it was like, again, I dedicated my life, I committed my life to this place, and they were providing me with yes, an education, things like that, but we put a lot into that football program. So at first it was anger, and then I think as I've gone through, I've matured a little bit and looked back on it, I'm glad it happened, because I think it helped a lot of us grow in our life at that time. But I think it was tough. It was tough at that time. And I think, like, if obviously if we could go back, it would have been nice to have a same coach the whole program, because I think we could have been really good. But I think it helped us in the end.
Let's talk about some more fun stuff now. What are some of the games? What are some of the games that pop out in your head as the most memorable? The Cal Poly one comes to mind. I'm sure Brawl of the Wild games.
Yeah. I think the two. I mean, that senior year was special. I think the two is that Cal Poly game, where we're in the north end zone, and I had the interception to seal the win.
Graves out of the gun, pumps, looks, fires. And this one is intercepted. Montana wins the football game.
That was really special. I also remember, like, the dog pile that happened after that, and, like, that was the closest I've ever been to. I felt like dying. Yeah, it was crazy. And then definitely the Brawl of the Wild game down here my senior year. That was really special because, a lot of people knew of me in Bozeman and know that I went up made the choice to go to Missoula, but a lot of people didn't understand why I made that decision and kind of everything else that was behind that. And so for me to come down and
that was one of the best games of your career.
yeah, I mean that was definitely the best game of my career, especially with everything that was on the line with the Brawl of the Wild game and stuff. So it's nice driving by that stadium from time to time and remembering the memories there.
How crazy to think of that you were only a second team all Big Sky linebacker your senior year.
Yeah, I mean that's still my buddy Zach Wagman and I joke about that you know, it still gets at me a little bit, but you know, I think it's also helped me with my career as well. It's going undrafted, and that you really, it doesn't matter the opinions of other people. It's just what matters is the opinions of the people that they're working with you every day, your coaches, your teammates, and especially when you get in the NFL, it doesn't matter how you got there. It matters what you do when you're there and the impression you leave on your coaches and your teammates and stuff. So, you know, definitely at that time, that was one of my main goals in college, was to be a first-team All-Big Sky player, and to not achieve that was tough at that time for sure. But I think it definitely helped me with the way I look at adversity and kind of the way that I use that and those failures to motivate me and just accomplishing things.
So you get a shot with Seattle. What do you remember just the first few days of putting on the uniform and how special that was? But at the same time, I mean, you're fighting for a position. So was it exciting? Was it stressful? Like what were those emotions like?
It was definitely stressful. I mean, I think that year they had just won the Super Bowl, so coming into that roster as an undrafted free agent from Montana was a lot. And on top of that, I think it was the second week of training camp, Bobby Wagner, the starter at the time, pulled his hamstring, and Ken Norton Jr. throws me right in as the starting middle linebacker in training camp. So I'm calling plays to the reigning Super Bowl champ defense. You know, I'm looking into personalities like Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Michael Bennett, all these guys. So it made me grow up real quick in the NFL.
Was it intimidating?
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, it definitely was. But at the same time, I almost didn't even have time to like think about that. Yeah. It's like, okay, here I am. It's time. It's all or nothing right now. And then starting my first ever NFL game was against the Broncos, Peyton Manning, and I remember like lining up across from him, and he goes, 45's the mic, like pointing right at me. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. But again, I think it just is really, it helped me in the end just grow up quick in the league and understand that you never know when your time is, but when it is, you got to take advantage of it.
So you get to go to the Super Bowl, as a rookie, right? And you, I think you were in on the play on the opening kickoff.
Yeah,
if I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that? I mean, going to the Super Bowl, rookie year, being, what was? I mean, that experience must have been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that whole year was it was crazy. I mean, that NFC Championship game, a lot of people forget about that. We're down. I don't even remember how many points. We had like 5 turnovers, and we come back.
He's a big Seahawks fan.
Yeah,
he probably remembers that game.
Yeah, so. Just to be in that, a part of something like that, and then that Super Bowl, it was a special year. And I remember even after we lost the game, I had a lot of family there, and we were texting. And I said, "Hey, I'm blessed to even have touched that field, to play in a Super Bowl. A lot of people never even go to the playoffs, So I think definitely it was a special year to play in something like that. Is something I'll remember forever.
Do you appreciate that more now? Because like during the time, you're 1 year in, you're already playing in it. It's probably harder to appreciate going to the Super Bowl. But now, after going through it for a few years, I'm sure you appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, no, I definitely do. It showed me. It was good that first year we went, because it showed me how difficult it is to get there and how so many things in the NFL have to go your way to get an opportunity like that. So that was definitely a unique, special experience.
What has it been like watching? I mean, you played with all those Seahawks guys, and now they're kind of disbanding that defense. What are your thoughts on how that direction has gone? And just, I mean, you guys were a part of an epic defense, one of the best in NFL history. Mm-hmm. Now it's kind of coming to an end. Just what are your thoughts on that?
I think some of it it's the realities of the NFL today with the cap and everything like that. But in a place like Seattle, it's I'm definitely curious to see how they respond, because I think a lot of those guys is what made that team so special, is those leaders in that locker room. And so I think some of those guys leaving, like Richard and Cliff Averill and Cam Chancellor, if they're going to come back or not, but I think it's going to be a new chapter for them. But I also have a lot of friends who are still on that team, and I know the type of leaders they are, like Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright, and those guys. And so it's going to be a new chapter for them. But I'm curious and I'm looking forward to see how they respond. Because I got a lot of history there, a lot of friendships that were built, and I have a lot of friends on that team. So I'll be curious to see how they do. And but definitely it was a special era to be a part of.
You didn't go to the Niners, but you stay in the division.
Yeah.
What was that like, going from Seattle to San Francisco?
Yeah, so when I was at Seattle, I was playing special teams a lot, but I also had some opportunities to play linebacker, and I always asked myself, and I was always curious on how good I could be if I was ever a starter, and that was the goal. I always wanted to be a starter in the NFL. So when I could look back on my career, I could say, I was a starter and I did it. Because I was always curious to see how good I could be. So that was really what was at the forefront of my mind when I made that decision to leave Seattle, a place that I was comfortable with, a place that I loved, to take a new opportunity, was to eventually become a starter. And looking back on that now, I'm so happy that I did that and followed my heart in doing that, because it's worked out. And it's something that I can look back on and be proud of, that I made that choice. But yeah, it was definitely tough. It was tough. And what's crazy about free agency too, is especially then, is I had to make that decision, which is a life-changing decision. I'm moving my life from one place to another in, the matter of an hour. So I'm glad that we made the right choice.
What was it like going from, you're going from a team that one of the best in the league over the last few years, to a team in San Francisco that had really struggled and had not been very good?
Yeah.
How much of that was like going through your mind?
I mean, I think it definitely was, because I wanted to be a part of something like that, like bringing a place back. And I kind of had that experience in Montana. And then everything that I had learned in Seattle and seen from there what makes a place successful, that's what I wanted to help bring to San Francisco. And I think that's what we're doing. And the way even that year went, going 0-9 and then winning 6 out of our last 7, and really coming into this next year with a lot of hope, a lot of excitement, and a lot of drive to win a lot of games is exciting, and is definitely something that I'm proud to be a part of, this change of culture there. You
start, you're getting to start and play, and you're making plays, and you're, a significant part of the defense. What is that like after, you're kind of a role player with Seattle and stuff, and now you're, really a part of the defense, making plays and stuff? Like, how special, how cool is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's really everything to, it really, I fell in love with the process again, and the preparation of football, and really taking things that happened in the last game, things that you messed up on, and working on them the next week, and just kind of falling in love with that whole process again, just like it was in college. But it was special too, because I hadn't started a lot of games in the NFL, and so when I was thrown right in there, which I was, it was that Friday of when we played the Redskins, and Navarro Bowman was released, and I was starting. I didn't have a week to prepare, and going through that first game was difficult. Like, I definitely didn't have a great game, and so kind of going through your own self-doubts of like, okay, well, hey, let's learn from this, let's be better from this. And then that whole process of last year, getting better every game and just slowly starting to believe in yourself more and more, and having that confidence and building confidence game after game, was just a great experience to have, especially going into this year.
What's the coolest part of being a starter and playing in the NFL like that?
I mean, I think the coolest part, is just when you work on something, you can just really see. I mean, there's no better place in the NFL. It's like, it shows you who you are. I mean, you have a performance on Sunday, and then that performance is evaluated by your teammates, your coaches. It's filmed, so they see every little thing that you did. And so I think you have to learn how to take criticism. You have to learn how to look at yourself and say, okay, I need to get better at these points. And then if you focus on those and then you see improvement the next week and then the next week, it's really rewarding, and I think that's what makes that hard work worth it. And everything that we go through in the National Football League is when you see that and you see the winning, and then through that you see just the bonds that you make with your teammates and everything like that through a winning culture. It's definitely something that's special to be a part of. So I would say that, that's kind of the nice politically correct answer, I guess, but there's just so many different things about it.
Maybe like, what are the cool moments? Is it like, walking out in the beginning,
yeah,
the stadium's going crazy? Is it lining up against the Peyton Manning and you're like, man, this is pretty cool?
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, being the middle linebacker, when you're giving the call to the defense and you kind of have to be that leader, is something that I've really enjoyed. Is when we're on the huddle and it's a long drive or something, I kind of have to get the guys up and say, okay, like, let's go, type of thing, and looking them all in the eye. And that's just what makes football special. So that's been a really cool time. Definitely those cool moments that I enjoy.
Hardest guy to tackle in the NFL you've had to go against?
I've had to go against. Hardest guy to tackle.
Or maybe Marshawn Lynch in practice.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to play Marshawn this year, so you might have to come back with that answer, because he's someone that I've always respected a lot. This year, though, I'd probably say was Leonard Fournette. He's a really talented player. It's that big running back from the Jags, and he, just his size, his speed, quickness, agility. He's just got the whole package. But it's kind of the thing in the NFL is you see a lot of those guys, so no one's easy to tackle. But that's what makes it such a great league.
Are you all on the Jimmy G hype train? I mean, it came in and it's rolling. What was it like being a part of that?
Yeah, it was great. Jimmy's a great person and he's a great guy, but to see his work ethic every day too, it's motivating for me as one of his teammates to see our quarterback have that type of work ethic. And you see the talent, and our GM and our front office saw the talent as well, and that's why he's our franchise quarterback now. So I'm excited. I'm excited that he's our quarterback, and you saw what happened when he was in. It helped change our culture, and so I'm excited for sure.
What's it like having John Lynch? Do you remember like watching him growing up? It's like I remember him just being an animal. Like, what is that like having him kind of be your boss now?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I think, especially for us as players in the National Football League, when you're GM, the guy who makes the decisions on rosters and everything like that, when he played at a high level and he's a Hall of Famer, he should be, and I know he's been trying to get in there, which he needs to be, but you can respect that, when a guy who's been in your shoes, done everything you've done, knows the game because he's played it, you can respect that when those decisions are made. And you can look him in the eye, he can look you in the eye, and you can respect him. So I think that's huge to have someone like that at the front office. And then Coach Shanahan, a guy who I have a ton of respect for, who you see the work ethic he's put in. He's grown up around football with his dad. So it's just a great head coach, GM combination, and definitely a reason why I wanted to be a part of that program.
You're going to be teammates with Richard Sherman again.
Yep.
What's he like?
Richard's a great guy. He, I think from a personal standpoint, he's funny. He's just a great person. I think when I came in as a rookie, he really embraced me and was a great leader there. And then also seeing his competitiveness and how he is on the field, he's a competitor that I definitely learned a lot from. That just to see his mentality on the football field, how smart he is. I think when his career's said and done, a lot of people are going to look back and really say that he was one of the best to ever do it, just from a mental standpoint, his competitiveness, how smart he is, and then how well he dominated his technique and what he was asked to do. He's a special player, so it's cool to be teammates again. I'm glad he's on our team.
What would you say is maybe the most difficult thing about playing in the NFL?
Most difficult thing, I would say, definitely the grind of the season. It's a long season. You play a lot of football games, and football is real physical. So I think learning how to take care of your body, your nutrition, kind of really just focusing. You have to utilize every hour of the day. You really do, to be at your best, whether it's rest, nutrition, recovery, studying. So when we're in the season, it's really a full-time 7 days a week job. So I think that for sure. And then, I think, like I said, the fact that if you make a mistake or it's blown up to the world, that everyone's watching your every move. But that's also what makes the NFL great, and it's what makes it what it is. So it's what makes young kids want to be a part of it, is because it's that publicized, and so those are the hard things.
How do you play a Thursday game? Like, you have to still be pretty sore by then.
Yeah, very sore. I think it also depends on how the coaching staff handles it through the week, but yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult, and I understand the business side of the NFL and why those games are happening, but from a player's perspective, it's definitely it's not something that we should want again.
What do you think? So one of the new rules coming out with these meetings has been the lowering of any helmet contact, and leading with the helmet could be penalized and all that kind of stuff. Just at a position where you are hitting on every single possession, especially running backs and stuff. Just what were your initial thoughts of the new rule?
Well, I think I evaluate it in two ways. I think one, the whole purpose of it, I think, is for player safety. I think that's good. I think any way we can make our game safer is great. But what I don't like is the fact that you have these the owners making decisions, and there's no former players or anyone that are helping them with this decision. How is that going to affect the player and that's actually playing? Because here, we're on the field, we have to make full speed decisions, and a lot of those it happens so quickly, you don't have time to think about that. And I think once that starts to be evaluated, where how can we get our player input and safety input and just make the best decision for everyone, then it's going to be it's going to be better for the league. I think this next year will probably be a trial and error on it, to see what they need to change, how they need to change it for next year. But I think ultimately, though, it's going to make our game safer, and that's good. But I'll be curious to see, every year we watch a video of kind of the new rules and penalties and stuff, and how they're going to be officiating it. So I'll be curious to see the implications on that penalty and kind of how we can use it.
I mean, do you think there's a way to make it safer but still have the physicality of the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I think Seattle was one of the first teams in the NFL to really start studying rugby and studying how to properly shoulder tackle. What's funny is, growing up in football, you're always taught to put your head across the ball carrier. Like if you're running a certain way, I want to put my head across, so I make the tackle and secure it. But really, that's the wrong way to teach it. And now you want to tackle with your leverage side, and really, it just taught us how to use our shoulder, keep our head out. And you see these rugby players, and we watch a lot of rugby film, and how they tackle properly with their shoulder, their head's completely out of it, and they're not wearing any helmets. So I think as that continues to be taught and properly taught at a young age, I think it's definitely going to make our game a lot safer. And the technology too, of helmets. I think there's a new helmet out, Vicus, I think that's what the company, but I wore that helmet this year. And I think as technology continues to improve the helmets, it's only going to make our game safer.
When you see like the Ryan Shazier play and stuff, obviously you can probably feel for him as a linebacker, but I mean, how is that scary? What is that like?
I mean, it absolutely is. I think, but that's the realities of the game that we all love. That I love, that I play, is it's physical, and you understand those risks. And I think you have to. The players that understand that is we evaluate that every day, is like, how can I improve in my game to be safe and to be a professional? And so I think those are things that you think about. And he's a great player, and seeing that definitely, we're just a big fraternity in the NFL, and I think when you see guys get hurt like that, it definitely it's hard to see. So, but I think the unfortunate part is things like that happen, and we improve from it, and the game moves on, and we improve to be a safer game. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
NaVorro Bowman gets cut, you get to play. It's a free agent year. what was it like going into the off season before you signed? And I mean, this is kind of like the big off season for you.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? And
yeah,
everything worked out.
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting for sure. It was exciting and stressful at the same time. As you have an idea of how things are going to go right after the season, but then a lot of time passes and you start thinking about certain things. But I'm happy the way that it's worked out. But it was definitely an exciting time. It was really I was in a position where all my hard work had paid off, and I was at a point in my football career where I was ready for something like this to happen, and I'm excited that it did. It was really the culmination of my football career to have something like this, and but also it's motivated me a lot to now go earn it. I agreed to the deal, and now it's time to show them that they made the right choice.
How satisfying was it though, just kind of putting pen to paper and know that,
Yeah.
hey, all the hard work that I've done throughout my whole life,
Yeah.
is paying off right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely, like I said, it was the culmination of my football life. To go through all the adversity I went through in high school, college, being second team All Big Sky, things like that, and just kind of overcoming all those and letting that motivate me to then accomplish something like this is rewarding, and it's motivating, and so that's what I'm proud of.
What's maybe the one material thing that you bought after?
Well, I think this house that we're sitting in is pretty nice. But it's nice in the sense of we have some structure in our lives, and the reality of the NFL is you're in one state for half the year and then another, and you kind of bounce around. And I mean, yeah, I signed a 3-year deal with San Francisco, and I have every intention to play every year that contract out, but you just never know in the league, and you see players bounce around all the time, but to have some structure and to have a home where